Hello, in today's video, like I mentioned last Monday, we are going to model, just for funsies, this gas mask here. Last week, if you didn't see it, we kind of did a bit of a different video while we're in between making tutorials, where we asked ChatGPT to show us how to model something, and then we followed it like almost exactly, and the results were kind of interesting, but I wanted to go ahead and model my own from scratch. And it's not so much of as a tutorial, I guess. I'm not going to take it incredibly slowly, but if you want to follow along, you certainly can. And if you see anything in the video where you're like, oh, I don't really know what you're doing there, why are you doing that, that kind of thing, feel free to ask as well. If you do end up watching this whole thing, I'm not sure how long it will be, but I'm just going to model this, and then I'll probably do a separate video where I do textures on it and stuff like that. Maybe we can make like a little tutorial out of that. But yeah, just a fun, small little project. I have this head here that I found online, and it's just going to be good to base it off of that. A little tip I would say, if you're ever making something like this, like a wearable, like clothing, mask, whatever, helmet, get like a body or just a bust and model it to that, because it will just look so much more natural, right? Like it will be fitted to someone's actual head. Yeah, anyway, let's get started. Also, if you didn't know, I'm using PureRef for this. It's a great piece of reference software. I would highly recommend anyone that does like art on a computer, to whether it's 3D or 2D, to get PureRef. Anyway, let's get started. So I am going to start with a cube. And I think I was deciding whether or not I would start with the eye goggles or the actual mask piece down here, but I think I'm going to start with the eye goggles. And just spend a bit of time blocking this out. So I'm just going to scale this roughly to size, and I like to take my time with this part of the process, just because, if anything's going to go wrong, it's probably going to go wrong at this stage. So we'll just block out the general shape, and I think I want to keep the front of this relatively like flat, and then the back side, that looks creepy, doesn't it? The back side will conform more to the shape of the head. This particular bust here is pretty small sized head, so maybe I don't want to make this too wide. That looks reasonably okay to me. So I'm just kind of very carefully figuring out the shapes, and then what I'm going to start doing now is actually like blocking in the shape of things here. We'll want these sides to be rounded. We'll want a bridge here for where the nose is. So we'll have this come up quite far, maybe something like this. And we'll want these here to be quite rounded, at the front at least. And then towards the back here, rounded as well, but not so circular. So we'll just take a bit of time to figure that out. I'm not entirely sure yet whether or not I'll like time lapse some of this, because I'm kind of literally just figuring this out on the fly, and I've actually never modeled a gas mask like this before, unless you count the ChatGPT abomination that we made. So we'll see how this goes. Part of me thinks this isn't tall enough. Maybe something more like this. And I want to add an extra loop like this, just to start having some indication of the roundness here. Maybe kind of like that. Again, this might still be a bit too round, or a bit too wide. It looks like some sort of fancy sci-fi goggles at the moment. But everything kind of starts like this. Like if you've watched any of our tutorials in the past, you'll know. I'm going to delete these back faces as well, because we don't need them. Everything kind of starts very simple. And I like to keep it simple for a long time too, just to make sure we're getting everything to fit right. The proportions look okay, that kind of stuff. That kind of shape looks right to me. I can't quite tell from my reference, but I would assume it would be shaped like this. I can't imagine it would be any different, because it has to conform to the shape of the head, right? If I sound a bit different today, I'm still sick. I had some sort of flu. It's going around at the moment, I think. I ended up not leaving the house for like a week and getting takeout a few times. But starting to feel a bit better now. So if any of you guys are sick out there at the moment, I hope you get well soon. Maybe we'll pull this down a little too. I feel like, yeah, we need a few extra edges in here, so push that back, put this out. Yeah. We can start pulling these vertices forward here as well. We're starting to get our basic shape here. I guess you would want a pretty tight seal around the face. Got to try and get the ergonomics right. It's a little tricky in the beginning. I think I'll go ahead and half this now just so we have one side. And then we'll kind of refine this side a little better. I think these parts here, this I might need to circularize. I'll see what that ends up looking like if I do that now. Okay, and I think what we want to do is then have this like be the same height. We kind of want these all to be the same height here. So the same height as this bit, I mean. And then the same with the bottom down here. We'll have these come out. Actually, maybe these will come down slightly. Like so. And then we want this to be flat on the front as well. I don't want any weirdness going on. Maybe we need that piece coming out at a bit of an angle. I just realized this might be a little high actually. I'll bring it more down. Like if I look at this directly in front, we kind of want this converging directly on the eye. Something like this. Okay. That's looking pretty good to me. And I want these to look quite big and bulky, to be honest. Just because I feel like that kind of fits in with the whole steampunk look. I am going to scale them down a little though, because I feel like they were excessively big. It's also good, I think, like no matter how much experience you have, to challenge yourself and keep trying to build new things. Like no matter what kind of art form that you're doing, just because you can get rusty, you can lose practice, and you know, nothing you ever make will be perfect. Of course, you'll get better. But there's always room to challenge yourself. You know, there's so many things that I've never actually even tried to model or draw, and this is certainly one of them. So this could well up being hot garbage. Well, this could well end up being hot garbage. Hopefully not, but we'll see. Okay, so I'm liking that shape a little bit more. Let's go ahead and duplicate that across. Okay, that's looking a bit cooler. Sorry if I end up rambling quite a lot in this video. There's not, other than modeling this gas mask, there's not too much clear direction. Let's go ahead and merge these vertices. Okay. I think that's kind of the basic shape I would like. And then we're going to have some smaller circles in here coming out. Just want to make sure this is fitting to the head properly. These back in. And then push these back a little bit. Something like that. And I'm imagining there's going to be like a rubber seal around these. Like, it's kind of looking like scuba goggles at the moment. Maybe what we can do is reduce the size of this at the front a little. Like that. So it has more of like a converging point. And then we'll see. Yeah, that looks okay. And then have the goggles come off of that. Okay, that's pretty cool. And I think I want to have like a curve up here as well. Maybe this kind of rises up a bit, like this. And down here it would just be like that. Okay. And then I like to make pretty liberal use of the creasing tool just to hold the edges of things while I'm like testing. Oh, not that. Just while I'm testing things, because we're doing subdivision modeling, right? So we can check how things are shaped. So that's starting to look pretty all right. Maybe let's hold this edge too. That's looking okay. We can also then go ahead and adjust the fit a bit better now. Because what I'll do is, once I'm happy with this shape, I'll go ahead and then subdivide it, and then the whole thing will generally just fit to the head quite a lot better. As you can see right now, it's a bit clunky. But that's to be expected, honestly. This is generally my favorite way to model things, to be honest. Just kind of enjoy the process. Don't, I think you need to develop a little bit of patience to do this. Because otherwise you'll rush it and then it will look weird. Like, this is the kind of thing you can only really learn just by doing it yourself. Like the Chat GPT thing that we followed last week, it doesn't really tell you anything regarding this kind of stuff. That's why I always think it's better to learn from an actual teacher. The whole like a rise of AI thing does slightly worry me, and I think a lot of people are thinking they can just get by entirely through things like ChatGPT. But you're kind of just robbing yourself of the experience to learn and try things for yourself, which I think is ultimately going to be really, really damaging in the long run. But, hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe we don't want this to be quite as a harsher point. A bit more rounded like that. That seems a little more natural, doesn't it? And we can pull these out to fit more around the face. Every now and then you might need to add more edges, right? Like, yeah, we are keeping it simple, but sometimes it can be too simple, and that's when you need to adjust. Like here, you can see we had to adjust that. But you can see when I smooth it, it now fits like nice and snug around the nose. Making sure our curves look good. Here as well, in the reference, there's like a little bit of an extra lip, so I'm going to go ahead and include that. But it doesn't seem to go the whole way forward. It just kind of is a bit at the back. Like so. I'm hoping this one will look a bit more like functional. Because the last one was kind of like an unfinished ski mask. Okay. That's looking quite a lot better, I would say. Hmm. I think I am nearly happy to go ahead and subdivide that. I like to check things from all angles before we do anything. Like, I'm wondering whether or not these are too small, because I'm going to reduce the size of these circular bits. We can go ahead and circularize again afterwards. Um, I'm just going to even out some of this as well. Okay. Something like that looks pretty good to me. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and actually subdivide this. And I'm going to do that trick where we keep the creasing so that we can keep that hard edge and still give ourselves some extra subdivisions. Let's go ahead and combine this guide and merge our vertices. So it looks like these vertices aren't close enough together. If that ever happens, just select them all like this and just scale it in like whatever is your side axis. For me, it's X. Just scale it. I'm holding down the middle mouse button, and it just collapses them together. Then you can fix that up. Okay. There's still a little bit where it's like contacting the actual skin of the character, but I think that will be okay. We can go ahead and fix it up afterwards. So I'll do one last look over to make sure this is as even as possible. We're going to need some extra gear in here anyway, so I don't mind that. Let's go ahead and smooth. Okay. And I always like to go back in and just harden these edges again that I want to keep hard, because otherwise it's kind of hard to tell what's supposed to be hard and soft. Okay, so that's our shape. And you see, just taking a bit of extra time has made that look like more reasonable. I might actually, now looking at it, pull these in. I'm just going to use the lattice tool. In fact, let's undo the subdivision. That's why it's good to take your time here, because fixing things once you've subdivided is a bit harder. Just going to pull those in, delete this edge. These might be coming out a little bit too far from the face, because they're going to extend out a little bit anyway. We're going to have like a circular bit that comes out, so I don't want it to be too extreme. Okay, there we go. And we put our edge back in, and now we can go ahead and subdivide. Okay, cool. Then we'll just redo what we did. We'll harden these edges again. Okay, nice. Then what I like to do is I'll probably just half this again, and then we'll just have a look, see if I can adjust the fit of anything around here a little, just to make sure it contacts the skin of our character a little better. Because it is a gas mask, right? You want there to be some sort of seal here. We don't want like big edges being visible. Oh, getting a very good view up our character's nostrils. It's a good thing there's nothing up there. So we'll just spend a bit of time fixing this, just to make sure this kind of fits as good as it can. Okay, maybe like that. That looks pretty nice to me. Okay, what I will do next then is I'll duplicate this across. You can see I'm like repeating myself here a lot. doing the same things over and over. But it's just about like making sure things line up, things fit. It's like repetition. Um, okay, what I'm then going to do now is go ahead and create a lip around this, um, like so. And then, can I get that to come out? It's not really coming out the way that I would like. Okay, so I'll do it like that. I might be able to do, there's a little trick here that I like to do where I make something a live surface and then select the geometry that I want to snap to something, and then I'm just going to scale it. So that's kind of worked, but not entirely. Maybe we'll try that again. The reason I'm doing that is so that I don't have to manually snap all these edges myself. Maybe we'll bring it out like this instead. Something like this. Okay, something tells me we're going to have to do this a little manually anyway. So we'll pull some of this back. Some of it we might be able to get the snap trick to work. You know what, to save ourselves trouble, let's just go ahead and half this again. I think we might leave this halved for a little while, just because otherwise we're going to have to keep fixing it. I mean, it's okay to bring it back multiple times, whatever works for you. Because it also is a good way just to see how the whole thing's working rather than just a half, and sometimes you'll miss things if you don't. But I think I'll just manually move some of these myself just to make sure things are lining up correct. We'll then go ahead and select these. There we go. So we can get those to fit on the surface a little better. Annoyingly though, then we'll probably have to pull them back out again because they're fitting a little too well. It's like it's suctioned onto the face. They're away like this. But then some parts we'll need to manually tweak. This is going to be a very chill video today. So I'll try not to put too many of you to sleep. And then we had someone on TikTok say they just like to listen to these videos, even though they don't really know what's going on. And that's quite nice. And I definitely know what you mean. I do that quite a lot. If I just want to relax, I'll just put a video on, even if I don't really know what they're talking about. My favorites, honestly, are anything to do with like astronomy and science, because I don't always have a great understanding of it, but you're kind of learning at the same time, and it's just nice to listen to, especially if it's someone that like really knows what they're talking about. I'm not saying I'm someone that really knows what they're talking about, but you know what I mean. Okay. There we go. That's looking pretty good now, don't you think? And then we'll go ahead and increase that. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, nice. So we're getting like a kind of cool lip around that now. What I might do again is go ahead and just potentially circularize these faces here and just see what happens. Okay, that's doing some funky things for some reason. It's like, don't know why it's sending it out in that direction. Just because I really want to like have a very circular feel on the front here. Occasionally Maya will do really weird stuff where you'll just want to circularize in a like planar direction, but then for whatever reason it's insistent on messing it up for you. Okay, there we go. Okay. Go ahead and delete some of these edges here just to make sure that this is not getting too messed up. Just doing a bit of edge flow there to make sure things are nice and tidy. It's always good to do that every now and then. Sometimes it can be a bit excessive and it will move edges and you have to go and fix them a little bit like there. But that is okay. Okay, cool. Then we'll add our edge loops back in, because I kind of want to keep that going straight anyway. Okay, nice. I think now we're ready to start actually adding in the goggles to this. I was really nervous before I started this, believe it or not, because, well, not really nervous, but slightly like cautious, because I wasn't sure how, um, you know, whether or not I'd be able to model this while talking. It's taken a while to get better at modeling things while I'm talking about them, because a lot of the time, like, if I really get into the zone of while I'm doing something, I'll just like not even listen to anything. I don't have any music on. I kind of just zone out, then suddenly wake up like 2 days later, um, realizing what's happened. Not actually 2 days, by the way. I'm being sarcastic. But like an hour or so, hours later, you're like, oh, where's all the time gone? But sometimes I need to remind myself that I am actually talking while I'm making these videos. Because if I just did this in silence, what would be the point? Or maybe there would be some point. I don't know. Anyway, that's looking like a pretty decent pair of goggles, I would say. But right now, you can't actually see out of them, so they're pretty pointless. So let's go ahead and add in our central piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and extrude in these faces here. If you're not sure how I'm selecting all of these like this, just hold down tab. It changes your selection, and you just paintbrush the selection. Oh my god, when I found out I could do that, I was very happy because it makes things so much easier sometimes. I have a feeling we're going to have some issues bringing these faces in here. So maybe what we'll do instead is, I'm trying to figure out the best course of action for this. I know that we want this to be our like eye hole, right? So maybe we'll just do one side at a time. I'll pull this in, circularize it again, then make sure it's kind of nice and straight. And then I'm just going to position it like in the center of the eye like this. And then we'll delete that. We'll see what it looks like. There we go. You can see out of the mask. So that's going to be roughly the size of our eye holes. Pretty big. It might be coming out a tad bit too far, but I don't mind, in all honesty. And then there's going to be some sort of bridging piece. Yeah. I wonder if we want this to actually come across. We can maybe do some manual topology editing. That'll be fun. I kind of like to do that sometimes. Some people think I'm crazy where I just get in like the nitty gritty and just start cutting bits up. But like that, people are going to panic and be like, oh no, the topology is horrible. But it's okay, you can go and fix it. You know, that's why we're keeping it pretty low poly right now. Like we did add one division, but it's not the end of the world. And then what we do here, maybe we'll have it like really come up like this. And maybe, I guess we want to keep this lip here, don't we? So it would be more like this. And then we can go ahead and cut out all of this stuff. Something like that. Okay, now it looks pretty hideous. You know what? If you're going to tell me that, that's okay. I respect it. But we can clean this up a little. So let's come to the front. Also, by the way, I'm sure many of you are watching this and cringing. And if you have any tips to offer me, absolutely let me know. You know, I'm making tutorials on YouTube, but I definitely still have a lot to learn. So if you see anything, you're like, oh, why are you doing that? It doesn't really make any sense. Then please do tell me of a better way, because I always like to try and improve. And I guess in a way, we have actually learned quite a lot while making these tutorials, because I don't know everything. And you might be thinking, oh, why am I trying to learn off of you then if you don't know everything? Well, the truth is, no one knows everything. Doesn't matter how experienced you are. And I'm not afraid to admit that. So if you do have any tips for me, definitely let me know. I would love to hear them. I think I'm going to have this come up in more or less a straight line, actually. More like this. If you're wondering why, the reason why I like to do some of this by hand, especially when it's low poly like this, is because I'm not worried about it looking perfect, and I don't really want to anyway. Like, if this is going to be a steampunk thing, I'm imagining, this is made by hand by some sort of like artificer or something. And our topologies actually ended up being a bit cleaner now because of that. So, you know what? I see this as a win. There we go. These really are just starting to look like scuba goggles now. Maybe I swear it will look more steampunky, I promise. Just give me time. Okay. Alright. Let's go ahead and duplicate that across. I wonder if our nose bridge is too high. Yeah, I feel like there's more real estate up here than there is down here. But hey, it's fiction. It has to look like it works for the most part, but not 100%, right? Otherwise it'd be boring. But I don't think that's too bad. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bit of a lip in here now. Have this come in like this. Because I'm then going to have the goggles kind of protrude in, and there's going to be like a separate piece. So we'll figure out how we're going to make that. Let's go ahead and add our creasing back. Like so. Something like that. It also looks like we need to pull this guy forward a bit. Both of those. Okay, nice. The reason why I edited the edge flow on this part here is because I would say that it's always good to have the shape of your geometry largely defined. Like if this was a really high peak here, and we're just keeping it there so that we can extend this top, I don't think that's really a good idea. I think you largely want it defined if you're doing subdivision modeling. So I'm going to bring that down a little. Okay, what I'm going to do next then is I'm going to duplicate that, fill this section in, and then extract it out. So we have this like individual goggle bit here. Because this is what I want to now build out of. I'm also just going to go ahead and half it so that we have only that one bit. Okay, and now the topology here I'd like to keep largely the same, but if it's a little different, that's okay too. So I'm going to start editing this now, and then we will want the bits that come off of here to be largely pretty circular here, because this is going to be like the main eye lens. If you're wondering how I'm getting it to snap to the middle here, I'm just holding down Shift while using the multi-cut tool instead. It's pretty handy. We'll go ahead and add another view going through here. Okay, cool, nice and clean. And then I'm just going to duplicate this across and combine these before doing anything else, so I can have this come out normally. Okay, cool. Then what I'm going to do is just extrude this out to a degree so it comes out to about this far. And And now you can see we have two separate pieces. It really looks like just some kind of sci-fi goggles now. That's kind of cool, actually. But that's not what we're aiming for. What I want to do now is have this. Gonna convert these here to circles. Well, we're going to extrude again and have them convert to circles. So here it might get a little fiddly. Okay, cool. Now we'll delete that side because we don't want it. Okay, so let's go ahead and circularize this guy. Let's see how much actually that I want to use. Okay, I think we'll take these as well. And this might look real ugly. Oh, I thought my eye was going to crash there for a second. It's always slightly worrying. And we'll pull that over to the center of the eye and then maybe scale it down a little bit. Like so. Oh, Maya is not a happy bunny right now for whatever reason. Okay, then we'll scale that like so. Okay, so that is going to create some weird geometry, but I'm okay with this. Then what we're going to do is go ahead and extrude off of this. Okay, and go in one. Offset a little bit. And then extrude in again. I always like to make sure these parts are separate, generally. Because they would actually be built that way, right? Just make sure this is flat too. We might need to edit the geometry a bit here as well, because I don't really like how these faces are working here. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think that's going to look a bit ugly. Let's go ahead and also circularize this side so that fits in there. I think this is the right faces. No, maybe not. These ones. Okay. I just want to make sure this is fitting in the same shape, roughly. So, the topology is getting a little funky here, but it's all right. We can go ahead and fix that as we go. I'm just kind of worried about getting the shape right first. Go ahead and bridge these two bits. Okay, nice. That gives us our eye hole piece. Now what I would like to do is go ahead and clean up some of this topology because it's a bit ugly, to be completely honest. So what I'm going to do is take this outside vertex here and I'm going to bring this up a little. And kind of have this flow across like this instead. Oh, selected a few too many faces. Okay, like that. Have that come up more like so. Okay, and I think something else I kind of want to do is maybe have this cut away. Mm, well, maybe we'll keep it. Okay, either way, we've got a bit of topper cleanup to do here because this is looking pretty hideous. Okay. Some of these we need to keep in the same place because otherwise the actual shape of things is going to go a bit wrong. We want the shape still to conform to everything else. Okay, let's see how we can fix this. We could add an extra edge here, but then that would look a bit strange. I think what I'll do is I'll just merge these over like so. We've got an extra one here. I think with that one we'll just have to add an extra edge, but that's okay, that shouldn't make that much of a difference. Hmm. Okay, cool. So what I'll then do is go ahead and increase these. And if you're wondering why I'm not beveling anything yet, it's because I like to hold off on beveling till I'm like very much happy with how everything is. Just because once you add bevels in, it's very hard to like work around it if you do need to change anything. This twisting here is going to cause problems though, isn't it? I think that's very annoying. Maybe we'll try and fix that slightly. Or maybe we won't actually. I kind of don't really mind that shape. I think that looks quite nice. Okay. Okay, so this is how the shape of our geometry is looking. Um, let's go ahead and bring this over. Because I think, at least for this piece, we're kind of done with it. Okay, there we go. That's got some nice detail to it. I'm also going to pull this back slightly and then extrude in a little, just to add that lip. And then after that, I'm then going to extrude in again. If you're wondering why I'm not adding thickness to this on the inside, it's usually because, at least in my experience working in VFX, you don't want interior parts, because if this needs to deform, then it's going to create problems with the simulation. I mean, this probably wouldn't bend much anyway, but it's just habit. It's also easier, and you won't see anyway, so it's okay. Okay, so there we go. Now we have our lip going around. I also just realized that's like completely off the face. How did that happen? Maybe that happened while I was tweaking the edge flow a little. So we'll just pull that back. this. Just make sure this still has a nice curvature to it. It's always good when you're modeling things to like keep moving around your mesh to make sure things are fitting as they should. Because chances are you're going to miss something otherwise if you don't. Okay, there we go. Cool, that's a much better fit. Okay, what I'll do next then is we're going to extrude off of here again. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this and then just extract this. I like to do like a select and then inverse trick to do that. And then just going to extrude straight out and create like a separate ring piece. Like so. Okay, I've also just noticed some of the topology here is a bit wrong. So we'll go ahead and fix that. These here should be lining up with this. That should subdivide properly now. Okay, cool. We can take that back across. And you can see because this is still like unsubdivided, that we're having a much easier time making edits than we need to. And honestly, the like actual poly count for this is okay. I don't know whether we'd even want to subdivide this again. We could, but we might not have to. Okay, this part, I'm gonna have come out maybe about this far. It's coming pretty far off the face, but I kind of like that, and I think that works. Kind of like so. And then we'll just have that extrude in a little. So I'm kind of going off reference here a little bit, but that's okay. We'll then have this come in, and then maybe the eye lenses are kind of positioned around here, so we'll have that extrude out a little bit to actually make space for the lens, because we want this to look like it would function properly. And then we'll have that come back a bit, space for the glass, and then back out. And then maybe there's a bit more of a lip on that side of it. And then we'll have those come straight back. Like so. Okay, cool. With these, I will also not bevel these yet, because there's something else I want to try. So remove the creasing from this. Then go ahead and duplicate this and send it to the other side, because I want to actually bridge these two bits. So I would like to bridge these faces here and add this like little nose guard extension bit. That. Then I'll go ahead and pull that up a little so it conforms more to the shape. Like that. There we go, cool. And then that's fitting on there pretty nice. What I also like to do as well, if we have a piece contacting like this, I don't like to just leave the edge without anything on it. I kind of like to pull in like this, just because when we go ahead and actually add our like bevels, it will then look like there's a more realistic piece here. It won't just like hard cut off and look CG. They're actually a bit of an inside bevel as well. Okay, let's go ahead and crease this and see what it looks like. add some creases here, just to all the bits that we need to stay solid. Let's see what that looks like. That looks pretty good to me. It's a bit goofy, but I don't mind it. Maybe we can go ahead and add like a little detail in here so it's not completely flat. Like, what if we add some sort of like triangular thing coming down like this? We go ahead and extrude that in like a little indent. And then we'll just clean up this. Okay. And then that will just create quads there. I think I will actually separate these two here. Bring those down. Okay, that is looking pretty cool, I think. Generally, I would follow the reference like one to one, but I think this is just for a bit of fun. I'm kind of just using it as a base to create my own thing. So already you can see this is looking way more like a gas mask or goggles than what we had with the Chat GPT guide. Okay, I think let's go ahead and actually add our bevels for this. So for all of these, we can probably get away with just doing a bevel and then going ahead and doing the cleanup. So I'll increase the fraction a little bit because I don't want these to be too hard-edged. Maybe like that. And let's go ahead and do these ones. This might need a little bit more cleanup. Because you can see what we're getting here at the corners is this kind of thing. Well, its topology is not the best. And then we just want to make sure that these edges here are the same size as all the other ones. Kind of like that. Okay, but now we are getting some serious funkiness over here that we'll have to fix. So we'll go ahead and half that. Oh, we'll have to temporarily add an edge here so that we can perfectly half it. Like so. Okay, cool. Well, first of all, let's fix this up. So maybe we'll just have this come to there and terminate there. With this, obviously, we need a point here. So we'll have it come in like that. Let's see what we can do. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a few too many, but in this case, what do we need here? We need an extra edge here, so we can just add one right back in. And that still leaves us with a bit of extra geo. In fact, maybe then we'll just get rid of that. And that will connect up like that. And that kind of works fine like that. Okay, then let's go fix up the other bits. So with this side, I think we can just have it terminate here, like that. And then with this one, a little bit more tricky. We'll just have it go like this. It works just like that. Okay, now we can duplicate that back across because we fixed all the problems. Merge it. Okay, then we just need to delete some of these. And there you go. That's our first bit done. Then we'll do this guy. This one should be a hell of a lot easier. There you go. We'll just go ahead and bevel all of these. So the good thing, the thing to pay attention to when you're doing stuff like this as well, is thinking about what material these are made out of. So these bits, I'm imagining, are like some sort of copper or brass. And because they're made of the same material, I want to keep their edge thickness or the edge hardness the same. So I'm increasing the bevel amount so that they kind of match. Yeah. And then we'll see what that looks like. Oh, looks like we missed a little bit. We'll redo that. Let's take that back up to 1. Okay, nice. That's those 2 bits. And then last but not least, we'll do our face guard. Almost tempted to smooth this again, just because I have a feeling we're going to need to add some sort of like lip in here to connect the strap that goes around the back of the head. And if we're going to do that, then we might as well smooth everything else. Because generally I like to have things be the same like topological density. Even though we might not be adding any more details on this, it's still good practice, I think. So we'll just smooth these 2. Okay, and the only reason I'm doing that now is because I'm happy with the topology on these guys. I'm happy with that model being done. Okay. Then let's go ahead and add our bevels on this one. Okay, so I'm going to do these first because I want these to be like relatively soft. I'm imagining this is more of like a fabric or some sort of like more organic material. So we'll do those first. And then with these, let's actually go ahead and just do them ourselves, because if I try to use the bevel tool, it's not quite going to get it right. There's not enough space there for it to actually do it itself. We'll delete some of these edges here because we don't need these excess ones. And we'll just remove the creasing and then smooth that. Okay, so that is the base of our goggle shape. Let's go ahead and put in some little lenses. I kind of want these to be like spherical rather than just flat. The reference I'm looking at has them as flat, but I think that looks kind of lame. And this will look much more interesting in terms of like reflections and things. So we'll just increase the number of divisions. Let's isolate this one and then pull this over to the middle. Okay, like so. I'm then going to cut off the part that we don't need, and then also just going to flatten this a bit because I don't want it to be perfectly spherical like that. I want it to just have a bit of a dome-like shape. Okay, then we're going to put that just in the little lip that we created. Let me come to the front and just get that to line up properly in our circle. Like that, then just expand. And then pull that back a little. Then expand again, just so that's sitting in that lip there. Okay, cool. And then we'll go ahead and give this guy some thickness. Maybe like that. Pretty thick piece of glass, but I think it would have to be. Okay, and we do want to keep this double-sided so we get accurate refractions and things. We'll add a bevel to that too. Okay, then we'll reset the transforms and then just duplicate that across. Okay, so that's the basis of our eye goggles. We then need to go ahead and actually make the mask itself. This like rebreathe apparatus down here. Okay, so let's create the actual breathing apparatus part. So we're going to make that much in the same way that we made the goggles. So we're going to start with a cube again. And we want that to kind of fit almost like a teardrop shape, like linking up with the mask here, but then coming away and down like this, down towards the bottom of the chin. I'm not entirely sure how it will attach down here. I think it will kind of just encompass a lot of this part of the face, like go over the mouth and the nose, obviously. So we'll just start making the base shape to begin with. Pull that down, something like this. Then pull that up, something like this. Okay, then we'll add some guys in the middle. We want this to come up to be sort of like this. Okay, and then this will be a little curved on the bottom. And come around like right down to the bottom of the chin. And maybe it'll even come under the chin like this. I think that would sort of make sense, right? Then we also want this to come out as well. And up. Okay, and like before as well, we'll delete the back side of this because we don't need it. And I want this piece here to kind of like come down to a smaller point. We might need to make some adjustments here. I want it to come down to like this kind of thing. Okay, so that will mean pulling this back out like this. Okay, maybe that'll have to come up a bit higher because we need this to cover the nose, obviously. Maybe this will have to come out like this. And I would like, I think, this to be angled like this as well, but we'll do that in a moment. We'll make sure this fits first. So again, it's just kind of trial and error, getting our shape to look right. I want this to be a pretty big piece. Okay, and then making sure this also fits flush. We're going to add some extra thickness to this maybe. I think what we might need to do is maybe increase the size of that slightly. These come up a little more, like so. Let's come out a bit. Okay, now let's add a few more divisions to get a bit more of a curved shape going on here. Okay, and we'll pull these in a little, just so that conforms a little bit more down to there. And then I think we're going to need to add some more over here too. Maybe this will mean pulling all of these down a little bit. It can be quite tricky to get this stuff to fit right off the bat. Maybe this will have to come up again. Like that. I think because of the shape of the character's nose, we might have a bit of a hard time getting this to fit. I'm not saying she has a big nose, but maybe like this. That'd be a bit flatter at the bottom. Okay. Okay, I think that is our basic shape. So I am half tempted to make this a little wider still. Maybe to be more like that. Have these come out a bit more. Okay, and then we'll just flatten this again. Okay, cool. What I'll now do then is rotate this too, and then see if we can bring this down some. Maybe so it's kind of like this. I think I almost want this part here to be a bit more rounded. Like that. Okay, and just make sure that's flat again. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'm going to go ahead and half this again, because we now want to spend some time getting this to fit around the base of the face. And that could mean adding in some extra edges, just to make sure this all fits properly. Okay, and then again, like with the goggles, we're going to spend a bit of time just making sure this fits around like the shape of our bust's head. Okay, making sure that it does sort of seal around it nicely. Maybe this will need to come out further, so it comes over more, like over to the cheeks. Maybe this will actually need to come down even more down here as well. Otherwise it could be looking a bit too small. Delete those faces again. maybe even further out. And an extra edge in here, just to make sure it's kind of following the shape that we want. Because I want it to look like it kind of like lines up with these goggles. Right. Like they're meant to connect together, right? Or at least fit together. Okay. We kind of like that. Okay. And just making sure this kind of lines up, or is a bit more even, like topology wise. Just fixing any issues again. Okay, cool. Excuse me. Okay, so now we can go ahead and add our edges back in again, and then we can make sure this is fitting nice around the bottom of the mask. We want it to kind of like round out a little bit at the bottom, I guess, to make some room for the chin. Something like this. Okay. Maybe have this come out a little bit. It's not so close. Okay, cool. So let's make sure that the center of this aligns to our grid before we go ahead and duplicate it back over. And then we'll just merge the vertices because we are going to go ahead and subdivide this. Okay, so I kind of like this crease here that's going on. I feel like you get that with some gas mask examples that I've seen. Might even pull this vertice in a bit. That is just going to exacerbate that crease slightly, but I think that's what we want, to be honest. Something like this, where it looks like it's nice and conforming to the shape of the character. And maybe pull these up a little bit. This one as well. Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and crease this because we want to keep this as a flat piece. Like so. And we'll see what that's looking like with just the creases on. I might round out this a little more because I don't want this to look so pointy at the front. Yeah, maybe something more like that. Okay, and then I think one other thing we might need to do is have this down here look a bit more like rounded out. like this. Because I don't want it to look super duper pointy. So we've kind of got this shape where it's coming up and in. It's like a modified teardrop shape. And does that look right going around the mouth? And then we're going to have these like rebreather things coming off the side. I get the sense there should still be more material coming out this way around the face, if you know what I mean. So I think I'll go ahead and half this again. Take all the time in the world that you need in this stage because you will regret it if you want to make changes later. And you didn't do it now. Okay, then we'll just make this flush again. Okay, kind of like so. All right, so that should be okay. Okay, there we go. That's encompassing a lot more of the face. I think I prefer that quite a lot more. In the reference I'm looking at, there's more of a straight line here, but I feel like you won't get as good of a seal then around the face, so I'm going to have it more like this. I feel like this makes more sense because like the face kind of comes in here, right? And I think that's covering enough of the front now. So let's go ahead and smooth this guy. Okay. Okay, now that we've done that, I'll go ahead and just harden the edges here to make that visually look correct again. And then we will see what we're working with. So I'm quite liking this. It's looking a bit plain right now. We obviously need to go ahead and add details, but that's why we're blocking all the mesh first. I'd like to do some more stuff to the front of this mask here. I think let's go ahead and block in the like filters on the side. So we'll just start with a 20-sided cylinder and then make these a bit flatter. I think these ought to be quite big, like this, and then maybe angled down slightly, like this off to the side. And just making sure that they align with the curvature of the mask. So they fit in like this. And maybe there's a connection point there. And I think I might make these a bit bigger. Maybe out to something like this. Okay, that looks pretty cool, I think. And then we can go ahead and actually make a hole in the mask here for that to come out from. And because we have extra divisions, that's now not too hard to do. Let's just copy this as a guide and put it on the other side to see what that looks like. Yeah, I think that looks pretty cool. I quite like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and expand that and keep working on it. Okay, before we go any further with this bit, I want to maintain the transforms, right? Just in case we need to do anything, because right now it's rotating in the direction that we need it to, translating in the direction that we need it to. So what I am going to do though is just get this guy, and then we want to create a circle here for this to attach into. So I might just convert these faces. like so. And then we'll see what that ends up looking like. I think I would like to just pull this back a bit so it fits here. And then we'll go ahead and just delete those. And then I'm going to see what that looks like when we smooth it. And it seems relatively okay. I might just adjust some of the geometry here. So this comes round like this instead. And then we'll see here if we can fix any of this up. Okay. We'll maybe pull these back a little bit. Okay, it's just better to have more even topology when it comes to stuff like this. Maybe we'll add some extra edges in there. Just to support that shape. Okay, there we go. So that works pretty well. Let's go ahead and delete this side. Okay, nice. Now that then adds our circle for the actual like part to fit into. I'm not sure if that's how it works in real life, to be completely honest, but I'm assuming there has to be some sort of like connection point here, right? So that's where that's going to go for us. I'll just extrude in here to give us something for that to work with. And then I feel like I want to have some sort of part here that comes out. So we will go ahead and duplicate this guy, pull him down, and then get this to fit in. And it looks like we placed it relatively well. Okay, we'll go ahead and add some bevels to this. Not too thick because I'm assuming this is like a fabric. Okay, so I want this to be I want it to be some sort of seal here that goes on the side to actually connect the two pieces. So I think the best way to do that is going to be to actually duplicate this. Let's create, let's copy this. Okay, so now we have that piece separate. And then let's actually go ahead and extrude this out a bit. Okay, because the thing I feel like with steampunk is that there's a lot of like seals and gaskets and like extra pieces. Like this would probably be a bit of metal, right? That's conforming to the surface. Make sure that's connected properly. Okay, and we'll extrude that out. Okay, maybe we'll then also have an extra bit coming out here. Okay, it's a little detail, and you're not going to see it from all angles, but I kind of just like the idea of that being there. And this is going to be made out of that same like brassy material, so we'll have harder edges. Delete those extra ones that we don't need. Okay, so that kind of just fits on there like that. And it's flush because we made sure to take it from this. Anytime you are working on a shape like this and you want to add pieces, the best thing to do is literally just to duplicate the faces on the surface and then work with those, because then you know it's already going to fit, right? And now we have this bit that's going through there almost perfectly. And then I think I will delete these back faces, because we actually don't need those. And let's actually go ahead and scale this down now, because I think I want this to be one piece. So I'm then going to just go ahead and align it to this part. Okay, and extrude back. And then we'll just delete that because we're just going to use that as a guide. And then we can go ahead and delete these faces because we don't need them. Okay, and you can see now if I just select these bits and isolate them, that's now fitting through that hole perfectly. Okay, very, very nice. Okay, now let's go ahead and add a few more little details to this. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe cut it here. Let's see. I think I want an extra lip in here. So to do that, let's think. I think we'll have to create a bit of a lip here. So there we go. That fixes that problem. So we're just going to detail this up rather than just having it be a normal, like regular cylinder. I think I also want to separate this here now. So I'm going to go ahead and extract this off. And we'll just extrude this in. And push out a bit. The reason I'm doing that is because what I'll then do is pull this in. And then it would be tiny anyway, but just so there's no light gap, I pull this bit out so that, there's actual geometry behind this when it smooths. Okay, so the shape of this probably isn't going to change, so let's go ahead and bevel it. Like so. Okay, this part here, let's add a kind of rounded edge here. Not too big, maybe something like this. Okay, then have this come in. Then go back in like this. And I think here, we'll have the actual like filter part here be a separate piece, just because I think that will look cooler. So, and also, obviously, yeah, there would need to be a hole at the back here, but because we won't really need to worry about that, there's going to be like some nice filter mesh here. We're not going to be able to see the back of this anyway with the lighting, so it won't matter. We'll just have that be a hole, and if need be, we can add a shader there. There's just completely black without any reflections, and then that will fix that up. Okay, we're just going to make sure again that our edge thicknesses are the same. To make that look materially consistent. Okay, cool. And then what we can do then to create the inside part here is I will duplicate this and just take these faces and I accidentally froze the pivots like an idiot. That's okay. We don't need them so much anymore anyway now. We'll pull that out a little bit. Okay, and pull in and then push back. Okay, then we'll go out again. And I think I want this to be where the actual filter part sits. Okay. If you see anything in this video, by the way, that you're not sure of and you want us to like talk about more, please do let us know. I'd be happy to do that and make more of the tutorial out of this. Okay, that's that part there. So what we'll then do is create our filter piece. So I'm going to create another cylinder. Reason being is because we might need to change the amount of divisions, and this won't have enough potentially. Um, if you're ever unsure of how to get something to line up after you've lost your pivots, what you can actually do is come to Modify, Snap Together tool, just press this and make sure its Snap to Polygon Face is set. You're then just going to hit, how do I do this again? We want to have it set to snap in the middle by holding down V because it will actually vertice snap. Okay, then the same here, and then just enter, and you might need to rotate it. But then that sets our pivot point, or it snaps our object to the part that we need it to be on. Okay, so now we can just bring this out, and then, we've got our pivot points back. Let's go ahead and just change this to align with it more, and then we'll bake that pivot as well, so that stays as it is. Okay, and we'll just expand that out. Okay, so with this, I may, let's see here. So I kind of want like not a spider web, I guess kind of like a spider web type shape here. So I think what I'll do is go ahead and add some more divisions to this. Just because it's going to be necessary to hold the right shape. Okay. For whatever reason, it's not scaling. Sometimes Maya does that. It's very annoying. It will scale one face, but if you select all of these, it just won't. It just refuses. No idea why it does that. It's like this weird little bug where it just gets confused. But then you can just offset it. The main reason I'm doing this is because I want to have the rings here that I need in the middle. So we'll have a smallish one in the middle like this. Okay, then we'll go ahead and delete the rest. I'm just going to extrude that again. Actually, no, we won't do that just yet. I'm then going to create the other two. So we'll use the insert edge loop tool to add two edges perfectly in the middle like this. In fact, actually, first of all, let's add the first one. Oh, not on the back. There we go. Okay, then we go ahead and add our two in the middle. Okay, and what I'm next going to do is bevel these to make these the right size, because I want these to be like bands. Okay, something like that. And then now, what I'm going to do is have actual bits come off like this. Okay, so these will become bands, and then we'll get these central ones here as well. These two, and then we'll bevel these as well. I'm going to make sure that's not causing... Make sure we're getting the actual center ones. Okay, like so. And then make sure these are the same thickness as everything else, just to be consistent. And then what we can do then is go ahead and just select the faces that we want to keep, so we can extract these off. Okay, I'm going to just extract that and delete the rest. Okay, and now we have our shape. Okay, just going to remove the creasing. There you go, perfect. So that'll just be the first piece, and then I think there'll be another grate behind this afterwards as well. So I kind of want this to look pretty thick. We'll go ahead and reverse that. Okay, and there's some extra edges here that we probably don't need. Like these, they're just a bit too close together. Slightly unnecessary. Okay, now is the somewhat tedious task of actually going in and adding bevels to all of these. So that can certainly take a while, because now I have to go and actually select all these edges. But that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I think that can be, when you're doing models like this, when they get a little bit more complicated, that is certainly the most tedious thing, but it's just something you have to do. I think in the latest version of Maya, and I know other 3D software, there is a tool that just automatically selects edges over a certain threshold. I don't think it's in 2024, the version that I have. But if you're using 2025 version of Maya, I'm pretty sure it is there, if you want to look into it. Blender probably has it as well, because Blender has everything, as you guys like to remind me. I'm trying to learn more Blender at the moment, actually. I've just realized I forgot to delete some edges. Just because for simulation it's really, really good, and for a lot of other things it's just incredible. So, okay, there we go. And then we'll add our bevels. Okay, and that takes us most of the way there, but then we're also going to need some holding edges. So I'm going to have to just go ahead and add those in myself. And it's going to take a little while. So I think what I might do is just time lapse this bit, because otherwise I'm going to be here forever, and I'll just run out of stuff to talk about. So I'll just shut up and I'll time lapse this, and then we'll get back to it when it's done. Okay, so I've gone ahead and added all those holding edges. It actually didn't take that long. It's not too bad, just a bit tedious. So that is the grill shape there, and I think that's looking pretty damn cool. So there's not much more we're going to need to do to this guy on either side now. So we can probably just safely keep this one. Anything we do now is going to be in the middle. And we also need to, I've just realized, add our little lip around this one too. Not as big, but just a little bit. In fact, maybe I might do something a little bit different with this one. We'll have that just come in a tad. Oh, we're getting some weirdness there. I think that's because it's not perfectly combined. Ah, okay, it's because we've got a double bevel going on. Sometimes that will happen. The way to see that sometimes is just smooth. You can see I've just beveled this. If I smooth, we're getting this extra edge. So just sometimes you need to double check for that. There we go. And then what I'll also do as well is add a line here. So we can just add this lip come out a little. Like this. Not too big. Just a little bit. Then we can just add a holding edge. Maybe a bit tighter, actually. Okay, there you go. That is looking pretty cool, if I say so myself. We'll duplicate across this bit. We'll just combine these two as well. Sometimes, like with a part like this, because it's not really going to be moving as much, it just makes sense to combine pieces. At least I don't plan to have this moving, because they're going to be the same material anyway. And yeah, there you go. So next, what I want to do is add another grate behind this. To do that is a little trickier. So what I'm going to make is basically a very, very small series of holes that's going to go behind this. And to do that, first things first is I'm going to create a cylinder. Okay, and we want this to be pretty small. So I'm just going to have it be maybe 8-sided. Actually, maybe even 6-sided. Okay, because these holes are going to be tiny anyway. And we'll delete these extra edges that we don't need. I'm then just going to delete these bottom faces. Okay, and essentially the best way to do this is just to create your the first like circular hole shape like this. And you can see even with 6 sides, it's still subdividing reasonably well. Not too big. Okay, and then we're just going to duplicate one across like this. Okay, and then we're just going to combine these two, and then we're going to bevel, or not bevel, sorry, we're going to bridge these edges. Okay, then in order to get this to be correct, I'm then going to go ahead and just duplicate this over, reverse it, because what we want to have here now is a join going down the middle so that we can duplicate this basically in any direction and it will connect up. So we're kind of making a seamless bit of geo. Yeah. If I go ahead and duplicate this from here, like so, you can then see we're now getting it to be like that, and then I can just do that again, and I can just infinitely duplicate it in any direction. So I'll do that a few times. We'll make this to a certain size, because I want these holes to be relatively small. Okay, then we can just go ahead and combine this, edit mesh, and then merge. So that's our one piece, and then we'll do the same in the other direction until this is pretty much square. Okay, then we'll combine again, edit mesh, and then merge. And it's a lot of geo, but it's relatively low poly because we went with those 6-sided circles. Now, the next thing we need to do is get this to fit behind our grid. Okay, you could have made the holes, or I could have made the holes a bit smaller, but honestly, I think that's okay, and it looks kind of cool anyway. So we're just going to get this to align to our object. We'll use the snap align tool again. We will just take the central, or a central-ish one, and snap it to the center here. Okay, we're then going to bake the pivots. Okay, cool. Now we can go ahead and edit this freely. We'll bring this down to kind of central, and we're going to just expand it out until it fits. Like that. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is, obviously you can see here we've got some bits sticking out the side, so very easy fix for this is pretty much, because this will be hidden anyway, just delete the parts you don't need. Literally just start doing it like this. And it's all going to be quads anyway, so don't worry about things breaking because we're literally never going to see that, and that'll be inside anyway. So it's much easier to do it this way than figuring out how to make it into a circle, which we could have done if you want it to be really nice, tidy, and realistic. You know, if you wanted to do some sort of exploded render where it shows all the pieces together and how it fits together, then it makes sense to do that. But because we're not doing that, we will just delete these because we're never going to see them. Okay. Just make sure we've got no extra bits sticking out. A few little bits here. Okay, and then to UV this now, you would literally just go like UV camera based. And then you could do it that way before you have to otherwise it's going to make it so tedious. And there you go, you just have those done, and then you can go ahead and extrude it. I'm going to extrude it twice, or a couple times, just to get those holding edges. Okay, and there you go. That's the grate behind that, and I think that's going to make enough depth to the point where I'm kind of happy just to have the texture at the back of this be black, so that, like, you know, this just goes inside, and I think that looks quite cool. I don't want too like fine, high-techy looking details because this is meant to be steampunky. Like things are kind of generally built bigger, right? So let's go ahead, take all of these, let's group these up and call this filter. Okay, I'm just going to add some holding edges here so this subdivides a little nicer. We'll reset the transforms and then duplicate it across. And there you go. That's our two filters. Looking pretty cool there. We'll call this filter L prefix for left, and then R prefix for the right. Then we can go ahead, and I'm just doing a bit of housekeeping now. C for center, mask, and then we can have goggles, not Google, goggles. There we go. Oh, got a bit of an extra piece there that's meant to be in the L filter. Okay, there we go. If we go ahead and hide that, you can see now we're getting our mask there, really. We just need to add straps so it goes around the head, and then we can go ahead and add a bunch of details as well, right? Like, because right now it's looking a bit plain and boring. We kind of just have the basic shapes, and that's okay, but I think, like, steampunk, we want all the little bells and whistles on it. Sometimes literally bells and whistles. Maybe we can go ahead and add, like, a little lip up here. Like a piece that extrudes out. From here, that could look quite cool. And maybe that kind of just comes out like this, and then extrudes in just to follow. Oh, have that come out flat, and then extrudes in just to follow the shape. Just realized I don't think this part's coming in flush for some reason, so we'll fix that quickly. There we go. And then maybe we have like a circular bit coming off down here as well. That could look cool. Do something like this, scale that in, convert the circular. When I first found out you could do that in Maya, I was so happy. You never used to have that feature. You used to have to get a tool to do it, a script or something. But then they eventually ended up adding it in after like way too long of a wait. We can pull that out and we can have some sort of like nice detail in there as well. In a bit, just so that doesn't look so plain. Maybe this is like where the voice modulation's coming out from or something, I don't know. Let's actually, while we're at it, go ahead and add bevels to this as well now. that as a hard edge. Well, we're getting some weirdness going on here. That's okay. We'll just merge these. It's looking a bit too. Maybe we do some manual stuff here. It's looking a bit too thick or a bit too hard edged. Because this part like isn't going to be made of metal, right? I want it to have a bit of a softer look. Go ahead and add in some manual bevels here. And again, this will be a good stage, probably just to go ahead and half this, so we can just work on one half at a time. Sometimes that really is literally just the best way to do things. It just saves you so much time. And then we'll just go in and draw out our bevels actually ourselves. Sometimes you have to do that. It's just the way it goes. Well, you're better off doing it that way because then you just get more control. So, and it's not a huge piece, so it won't take us that long. Sorry if today is still a little bit more subdued. I'm still feeling a little bit under the weather, getting better, but still a bit sick. So it'll take a little bit longer to recover, I think. Okay, then we can just merge these because we don't want to disrupt our edge flow too much here. Okay, we can add a bevel on this bit. We'll draw one coming around the base of this too. Okay, it's going to come to such a narrow point here. I think we'll just have it terminate in a triangle here, and that's okay because it's a flat face and it's not going to deform. So, you know, before you go to the comments and say, ah, disgusting triangles, it's okay. Okay, there you go, and then that smooths perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and duplicate that over. Combine, edit mesh, and then merge, and then that should work fine. There you go. And then that's a pretty nice looking bit of geometry. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so that is everything. Let's go ahead and group it and just call it mask underscore group. So that is everything created for now. I think I'm going to go ahead and subdivide this a couple times. Again, you might be wondering why. It's just in case we want to add more details, like to beat things up a little bit, maybe add some dings here and there. It's just what I like to do. When I worked in VFX, it was kind of just standard practice as well. Just make sure these are pretty nice even quads. And then we'll go ahead and subdivide that. Same with this one. We could go in and then clean up some of these, like we don't need these extra edges in here now. Right. I'm not going to subdivide this stuff in here just because it's like not going to get affected and it's already a bit dense anyway. Okay, so now the topological density is pretty even across the board. Nice even quads. And if we want to go and sculpt some stuff on this later, we can. Okay, the last thing to add would be straps going around the head. The way I like to do that is to actually use the head that we're building this off of as a guide. So I'm just going to remove the smooth preview from that, and I'm going to turn on live surface. And I'm just going to use the quad draw tool. I'm just going to press Control Shift Q on the keyboard to activate that. And then what I can do then is literally just draw like mesh on here, and it just conforms to the shape of the head. So it saves you so much time instead of making like a plane, extruding it out, and then having to shape it to the size of the head. It's a pain in the butt. So you just do it this way instead. It's so much easier. Um, so we'll probably have the strap come round this way for the goggles, and maybe that will connect off to the side here. So the actual connection point we will have to build, um, but we can at least make the strap to begin with. So I think I want that to be a kind of beefy looking, like leather strap, right? They're not really going to have any synthetic materials. So we'll start off just by keeping it relatively light in terms of topology, just to get the shape there first. Okay. And we're just going to bring it around to the center. And then make sure this is pretty even. Okay. Then what we can do is come out of that mode, duplicate it across, combine, make sure these are just connected like that. Edit mesh and then merge. And then there you go. You have a strap that conforms to the head. It's a little small, so I'm going to have to just increase the size of that. Well, we can just come back into quad draw tool again and just add our extra edges. And now look, I've kind of purposefully made it so that each division was like only one extra division away from being a cube, a square, sorry, to make it more even. Yeah, and because we kept it simple, we don't have to worry about modifying it too much to make it like more a flat shape. Okay. And then we can even go ahead and just edit the edge flow a bit. Make sure that it's coming off flat. Then we could even go ahead and add some more divisions, and I think I might do that. But for the time being, I wonder whether or not it's better to add the divisions now. Okay, let's add them now. Screw it. And then we can select this guy, and then just bat, and it will snap to the surface a bit better. Okay, but because this is now a little more high resolution than the head, we might need to edit edge flow a little bit in some parts to keep the curvature looking correct. That's okay. Doesn't take too long. And it is literally how we'll build all the straps now. And it really didn't take that much time. The longest part was going to be getting it attached. But I mean, once we have this part done, the rest is like pretty easy. The longest part is going to be attaching it to the mask itself. Okay, and there you go. That's the first strap. Okay, I think I'll do maybe two more. The actual mask piece itself. I'm kind of imagining this is like a two-piece thing, and that's what the reference is looking like for us as well. So let's go ahead and create our next two. So maybe this one will come out this way behind the head. And I kind of want to maintain a similar thickness. Maybe slightly thinner here because there are going to be two. And we'll just have it again come around to the back of the neck. Something like so. Okay, and then we'll do exactly what we did last time. We'll go ahead and duplicate this over again and combine the two. I'm sure like these straps would be adjustable, right? um, were this to be a real thing. So what we might have to do is add some slack of the strap coming out here, right, from where it's been tightened. But that's okay, we can do that. We're literally just going to repeat the same process, add our extra divisions again. It looks like it's having a little bit of a harder time this time getting it to fit, but that's probably just because of the shape of the neck. So we'll go ahead and fix those. Make sure this is coming out nice and even. Okay. And go ahead and smooth it again, just to bring it up to the same density. And then we will just select all the vertices and then just expand, just so that follows a bit closer to the shape of the head and the jaw shape there. This looks like it'd be quite uncomfortable to wear, honestly, because of where it's coming around the side of the face. But, you know, that's okay. Maybe it wasn't really designed for comfort in mind, right? It's more meant to save your life. Then maybe another one. Let's see here. Another one that comes up this way around the back of the head. Maybe what I might do actually is have this come a bit more down this way around the back of the neck. And then don't worry about that not fitting, because then I can just literally pop that back on. And we're getting some change in the shape of this here, but really I don't mind that. I feel like that looks fine anyway. Like it's a leather is probably gonna be somewhat wavy anyway, and we can always fix it a little bit just by doing that. And then having that snap back a little bit again. Okay, cool. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that's coming out more like that now, which I think I prefer. And then what we'll do is we'll just make one more. This time having it come up this way, round over the ear and around the back of the head. And then I'm assuming these would all attach to here as well, so we'll just have it come like this. And up over this way. And this one will probably go underneath that back head strap. Come right over to the middle again, so that joins up properly. Okay, just adjust that a little bit to make sure this is all the same thickness, or roughly the same thickness. Okay. A bit of edge flow to make sure all that's looking correct. Okay, then again, literally the same process. Copy across. And then we'll merge these vertices in the middle. I'm just going to snap this now. Seems to be having a little bit of trouble around the ears. That's okay. We'll just fix that with an edge flow. Okay, then we will go ahead and smooth. Delete this middle one. Okay, we'll get that to snap again. It's important to do this, I think, every time, just so that it's conforming, you know, it's not too much of a big change when we do go ahead and subdivide again here. Okay, and then we'll get that to snap one more time. Okay, and then we'll probably have to go ahead and edit the edge flow again a bunch here, but that's okay. Again, I have edit edge flow just bound to F1 on my keyboard, so I can do this very, very quickly. Okay, cool. Now, if I go ahead and select all of this, that is all of our straps done. And then we would just need to add connection points to this. I think for the time being, I won't extrude these. But there you go. So that's our mask. I think for the sake of this video not being too long, because we're already at like 2 hours and 10 minutes unedited, I'm going to leave it there. But if you want to, what I can do then in another video is actually finish this off and make it a bit more of a tutorial. We can maybe go ahead and create shaders and materials for it if you'd like to see a tutorial on that. Bit of a weird video, I know, past couple of weeks, where we're just sort of relaxing a bit and just experimenting. But this was the follow-up to last week's video where I wanted to show you just like our version compared to the ChatGPT's instructions. This, I think, looks a lot more plausible of a gas mask than last week's and actually fits to the head. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Either or, I'm still going to go and finish this off in our own time. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video and hopefully got something out of it. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And if you want to see more content from us, like and subscribe. And yeah, all our links in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.